Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Falcons, the Men of North Catholic. And I'm joined today by
Eugene Byrd. What's going on, man? How are you?
good. How are you?
Doing well.
Class of 2009.
Yep, class of 2009, 2010. Yeah, I went from 2010, I believe, the last class. So, yeah, 2009.
So let me ask you a question. Why did you choose North Catholic?
Man, it was a cool journey. How I got to North Catholic it's funny because the school is down the street from where I grew up, in North Philly, right off in 9th and Area Avenue, down right on near Temple Hospital, over around where Maxis is. And I was leaving when I left Little League football. I wanted to continue to play, obviously, and I went my first year to public school. I went to Samuel Fells High School, and I was in Northeast, and I didn't play for the football program. I really didn't have as much as I enjoyed the school. I didn't have a desire to stay. I wanted to kind of go back home and back down to North Philly. When I went down there, some of the folks that I played with at the Chargers, my former football coach at the Chargers, the Frankfurt Chargers, Rashid, he took me straight over to Coach CJ, right at North Catholic, and said, like, he said meet me here. We're gonna go. We signing you up to go to North. And at the time we didn't know how we was going to do it financially, but what CJ did for me and what Raj did for me, it changed my life. So I chose it because I knew that there was a tradition there. I knew that there was some people from the neighborhood that played there. Terrell Oglesby being one of them, who played for the Chargers and went there. And it was a good choice by me, but by those guys have actually put me in a position to get there and show my talent. So it was a cool experience.
Do you remember your first day at North Catholic? Now, again, did you grow up going to public school? Did you go to Catholic school at all, or?
No, I didn't go to Catholic school at all. I went to a public school in West Philly. I went to Overbrook Educational for my first 8 years of education, and then I went to Fells because it was close to where we were living at the time. To the first question, I do remember my first day in North Catholic, and then it being very, very different than my experience in high school up to that point. So it was different, and the reason it was different was because in public school, as you know, it was the environment was the classes, you could carry a book bag to class. The class schedule was a little bit different, and it was very abbreviated, and we didn't have a bell. You just kind of go from class to class. You knew what time the class ended. And then when I got to North, the first thing I noticed that it was no metal detectors. So we walked in and we go in, and I go to Kosnick's office just to, because I didn't know anything. I just was kind of coming into it blindly. I had gotten some information, and that was just a staple point for me. So I go in there and just kind of ask Ms. Faganiak and Kosnick where I'm supposed to be, and they helped me print out my schedule. And I kind of, I started walking around with my book bag, and Kosnick's like, "No, man, you got to throw that in your locker." And I'm like, "I got a locker." So I go to my locker, and I've seen some people that I've known from the neighborhood, here and there, and I'm carrying my books around. And then from that day on, I was, obviously I was engulfed in the culture, and obviously bred it along the way on some things that I could and couldn't do. Obviously wearing my tie and wearing my sweater and all of those things, which was very, very different for me because I didn't come from a structure of that such. So
what was your anticipation in North Catholic? Like I said, you mainly went to public school your life. What did you hear about North Catholic, and what were you anticipating as your first time going in?
I didn't have much of the school aspect. It was all football for me. So my anticipation, I knew that it was a tradition there because you would hear about it throughout the neighborhood. And just the things that they would say about the school was a little intimidating, to be honest, because you tell somebody like you can't wear a beard, you can't, you got to wear these specific shoes, and you can't there's a detention, things of that nature. So it wasn't that it was negative, it just was the structure. So the anticipation was I went to go play football, and I knew all of my friends and the guys because we did training camp in 2 days, which was new to me. And Charlie and Coach Sillick and the coaches would kind of prep you a little bit about, how the school days would go. And for me, I was very, very, intimidated by it because again, I was nervous that I was, I'm going to walk in and I got to, if I have a beard that, and I got the tension, but my anticipation of it, wasn't the reality of what I lived out after those 4 years. I mean, those 3 years that I was there. After that, my experience was one to remember. I connected with a lot of people and met a lot of friends that, I still have with me to this day.
With that being said, where do you think North Catholic got at you to where you are today?
I mean, I owe a lot, of my career to, to my foundation. Obviously coming up through the Frankfurt Chargers, being in the neighborhood and all of the people that kind of invested in me there, and then, just kind of getting me into North. But then as the school, again, I made a lot of connections, and one of the most staple connections that I made in my life, I say my life up to this point is Frank Gummiani. When I met Frank opened me with open arms. Frank and my mom and my family still connect to this day. I talk to Frank on a regular. And that opened up doors for me to give me an opportunity to be an intern with the Philadelphia Eagles, which changed my life essentially, because then I went on to work my behind off and take advantage of the opportunity that he gave me, to kind of get a full-time opportunity there. And I spent 5 to 6 seasons with the Eagles. Obviously, the Super Bowl 52 is mixed in there.
Nice.
And then it obviously gave me the experience that I needed to kind of branch out inside of the industry. Now being down in Atlanta, a lot of the things that I talk about and the memories that I have comes from being at the Eagles, which comes from being around and interacting with Frank and a lot of the alumni that still kind of reach out and and then obviously my roots at North, and then the experiences I had leading up to it. So I think North plays a very big role in who I am, and then just the connections with my brothers. Stefan Singleton is still, that's my brother to this day, and that's those connections and those relationships with the people around is what kind of keep me going.
Nice. Great story. So you're in Atlanta now, huh?
I am. Yes. I work as the manager of event safety and security for the Atlanta Hawks.
Nice. Well done. So sure we can agree, being a football guy, you guys have some big appetites. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah.
And you're staying at North Catholic and North's infamous cafeteria. What was Eugene Byrd's go-to food?
Man, that's a good one. I think you'll be underwhelmed by my answer though. It's just straight French fries. You know what
French
I
fries,
mean?
no cheese fries?
I would do cheese fries every once in a while, man. But we, by the support of some of the guys at the table, we would all pitch in and grab a ton of fries, and that was my go-to. I wasn't a guy who, pizzas every once in a while, but fries, that was my deal. Throw some barbecue sauce on it and kind of keep going about the day.
You ever talk to Frank Umiani? And I'm sure you do on a basis. My brother was a junior when I was a freshman, and they all knew my brother, and I think they all sat at the same lunch table. Well, that's how I got my cheese fries. So when I would get there, I think we had fourth lunch, and they would all ask me to go up to the cheese fry line to get them cheese fries. And I was like, what? At first, being a freshman, I always did it. But I was like, wait a minute, I'm getting something out of this. So I always get cheese fries for free every day because I always want to sat in the cheese fry line for these guys. And you remember how long those lines were.
Yep, the line bend around the corner. It was cool, man. Good time.
So I'm sure we can also agree that North Catholic had some pretty amazing teachers and some awesome oblates. Which
Absolutely.
teacher or oblates, even both, would have stood out to you and why?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Miss Foxworth now, who was Miss Leatherman at the time, was a Spanish teacher. She was a great influence in my life, and still to this day, somebody that I connect with. Mr. Paul Dixon. I didn't have him as a teacher, but he was a mentor, and I'm very big on energy and demeanor, and he was one of those guys. Coming from an environment where I had limited, male figures in my life, Mr. Paul kind of took care of business in a very structured way and knew how he wanted to kind of present himself and how the guys would receive him. So he was, and also, younger, at the time, so he could relate to a lot of what we were going through. Just being there and being in hot sweaters all day, he kind of, would kind of provide that reality, check to many of us. I mean, Mr. Fitzpatrick, he was also another staple in my life. The computer teacher, God rest his soul, but he was another staple in my life. He was the one who kind of introduced consistent prayer into my life, right before the class. And we did do it during the day, but he was one of the ones who did it before every class, and it was a Hail Mary. And, you take that and you kind of roll it into your life, before your day. There's always time for a short prayer. It's some good ones, man. I know I'm gonna miss some good ones, but the ones that kind of stuck out to me initially, Sister Fran, the biology teacher. She was another great person, consistent, very structured. The way that I learned is very analytical, and she was able to kind of make it very simple. And expectation was set, and she was very influential and obviously pertinent, not just to me, but some of the other guys too. Man, it's some good ones, and I know I'm missing them. But
You could probably go on
those,
and on.
yeah, I could, man. The entire roster was cool. Constantino, Mr. Oliver, all great, some greats in there.
Speaking of prayers, the direction of intention, the class prayer. Do you remember it?
Man, if you started it, I probably could, but off the top of my head,
I give you this class.
Please give me this grace.
There you go. Please give me the grace, conduct myself during it. In a manner most pleasing to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, what? That's a blast. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Man. But let me ask you this question, and I started asking these guys this. Did the direction of intention actually help us knuckleheads at North Catholic? Were we able to pay attention?
Nah, man. After the first week, you were kind of it just turned into lip service. But I mean, again, you put it out there, and you put it out there. It's got to serve some purpose.
Amen, brother. Amen. Absolutely. So, besides sports, which we'll touch base with, what else would have been your fondest memory in North Catholic?
Outside of sports, oh man.
Like, what would you got? Like, so for example, you're hanging out with some guys, maybe Frank, you're sitting there chatting, maybe guys you graduated with. What are some of the most talked about things that are like, being a student in North Catholic? What would you guys mostly talk about?
You know what, man? I would, to be transparent, for me, it was all football. There was the education piece was definitely something that was important, right? It was beneficial. And again, I was a learner. I always wanted to be a person that I didn't take the classes lightly. I take it very seriously. I'm definitely coming from, not the public school, but just coming from a different environment. It created the structure for me. So it helped me kind of put myself in a situation that I always wanted to be in, where there was some structure, and then football was at the front. For me, education, I was good at that. I got myself together there, but sports was the main staple. So the guys that I talked to, and even now to this day, the Mike Terrys, the Woody Reddins, you know what I'm saying, Terrell Oglesby. We get together, we talk about games, we talk about football. I saw Joe Garrett the other day. We talk about football. We talk about how, some of the games that we were in, traveling, going to play against some of the players that eventually made it on to go play in the league. The Tom Savages, the Corey Brown. So we, some of the guys, the most important thing, Dave Williams, Daniel Clark, all we talk about when we get together is how somebody's, smash somebody on a kickoff, or how, Dave and Clark would play kick return in the beginning of the season, and then Dave kind of earned his spot as a great, great linebacker in North history. So we talk sports, man. We talk football.
So let's, going from public school to Catholic school, and there's, obviously, and North Catholic with Mr. Koshnick obviously held some high standards to us students, and those of us who may have slipped went into something called JUG, Justice Under God.
Yeah.
Where did Eugene Byrd fare with the JUG?
Dude, to say the least, I was very blessed. I had Koshnick is a great guy, but I think he knew that what my intent was and my goal was when I was there, and it was to kind of stay out of the crosshairs of any kind of trouble. My mom, my uncle, they sacrificed so much for me to be there. And the last thing I wanted to do was have my mom come all the way from Northeast and working her job to come talk to Koshnick about me not having something or having my stuff together. So I didn't unfortunately I didn't serve not as a class, I've served in several jugs. If this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy and they brought the whole class to jug, I served in a few of those. But individually, I walked out of there with a 300 credit score. 100 every year. I never
Nice.
served a jug.
Well
And
done.
I think hope Koshnick remembers the fact that I did my best to stay out of his way.
Well, believe it or not, Mr. Koshnick does watch these videos, and he was actually one of my interviewees.
What's up, Kosh? How you doing, man?
And he did tell me, no matter what comes out of these stories today, nobody will be held accountable.
I know, right? Yeah, I got to keep that 300. I wear that as a badge of honor, man. Like I said, we worked hard to just get there. Like to get the North was cool. Was great as a hurdle for me. So I didn't want to be in any kind of trouble that my mom had to be involved in.
Very, very true. Your mom's that come down and whoop your ass. You did what?
Nah, man. My mom is my best friend.
I seen your Facebook, and you guys look like you had a really tight relationship, man. Nobody can beat a mom any day. You know what I mean?
Man, and it's funny that you say that because, we had my Little League coach. I had a Little League coach that just recently passed, God rest his soul. And the one thing that when we went to go to the memorial, the one thing that they said is, and Paul Dixon also points it out too, is my mom, they know about mom and I are inseparable when it comes to football or come to anything related to North. I still buy her North Catholic hoodies. She still wears them around the city, when she goes into, go to work for the Eagles and all that other good stuff. So yeah, she's that's my right hand. She's been with me through it all.
Amen. So when I went to North, I don't know if this tradition carried on, the Munchkin salute. Did you guys do that?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Remember it.
Well,
there was a format to it, and I don't know, you did something with your hips, your holder, and you did one of these things. I don't remember it too well. I didn't know if that tradition carried on in the 2000s.
It did, but I don't know about that was in my crowd of friends. I don't know if we were doing that, and it's just because I think that over time people just didn't understand what it was. They knew the tradition behind it, but I think by the time it got to our group or our lunch table, it was kind of like,
Nobody screwed with the football guys.
It was a little different, man.
So let's stroll right into a little bit of North Catholic football, and I'm sure everybody wants to hear this. The final game at the North Frankfurt game. What was it like? What was your pregame? Like all 4 years, I'm sure I don't know, from a freshman, I don't know where you played, if you always played varsity football, but
Sure.
this is it, man. Like, this game, epitomizes, it doesn't matter what you do in a season. Like you can even win the probably Catholic League title, but you have to win the North Catholic, Frankfurt game. What was your pregame your senior year?
So that game was pregame for the year was much different than the years previous. So I was actually in the first game. I was nursing a high ankle sprain all season. So every game was a little bit different. You can have everything that you needed as it related to just equipment and all that other stuff. For me, I was more concerned about my ankle, making it and lasting through the game. So I played the first game. Got hurt, I think, in the second half of the first game, and then I sat out for 3 to 4 games where we played some O'Hara's, we played some schools over there at Frankfurt High, and then for the rest of the season when I came back, I obviously kind of walked back into my starting position, and for those games it was more so just trying to get us to the playoffs. That was the biggest concern. So obviously we rallied together. There was a lot of great guys on that team. I mean, you name it, it's Ray Rooster, it's Mikael Islands, it's Anthony Reeds, Stefan Singleton, and all those guys. So that was the season. But then this North Catholic, the North Catholic Frankfurt game, the Thanksgiving game is much different than any experience that I've ever had, and literally it is my greatest football moment of all time. I've obviously been to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, obviously with the Eagles, and those moments are great. But when I talk about sports, the North Catholic Frankfurt game, that moment, every play of that game is obviously the staple much higher than everything else, in my football career. Going into the game specifically, I think again I was kind of banged up a little bit. I was just trying to make it through the game, but the energy was there, so it was very, very easy to kind of separate yourself from anything that you had going on. I remember the stage we played at Frankfurt, so the stadium was similar size to where we was playing up over at Drexel. And I just remember the stage feeling very, very big. I remember more people than I've ever seen in a high school game, packed in side by side, the energy just kind of flowing through the roof, if it had one on there. And I remember my mom and everybody, and just feeling like knowing that this is our last game, So at first we walked into it kind of like somber, just trying to, finish out the right way, because that it's some time in between your last game and the Thanksgiving game. And I remember just kind of going in the locker room and a couple of the guys saying like, why are we so dead? Why are we so down? And then we came out and saw, everybody just, lined up in the stands. And I mean, come on, man, it was over from there. We were ready to go at that point.
So you talked about, the crowd and the stands and the stage that was set. Being a player on that field, when you guys come walking out onto the field, running out onto the field, however it may be, and that crowd starts going nuts.
Sure.
How you feeling at that point?
Man, it was it felt surreal. It really did. It felt surreal because you always wake up for the North Frankfurt game. But it was a unique mixture of emotions because just like at any kind of big game, there's the ceremonial stuff that kind of happens where you're kind of just itching, scratching to get at the bit, scratching at the bits, where they did the presentation of the jersey, the national anthem was sang by, I believe, Taylor Ann, and just, electric every time that she sang. So it just kind of felt like it was boiling up to some heavy hitting football, which we knew was always going to be with Frankfurt. So in my mind, I always take a couple of deep breaths. I take in the moment. But at the same time, you got to look across. I was playing against people that I've known, and I'm sure in North Catholic and Frankfurt history that there's always been that kind of back and forth. I know Coach CJ played at Frankfurt, and there's some crossover there. But I'm looking across at one of my best friends, Tyrell Martin. And I'm looking over at Chris Spence. Actually, it's Chris Spence's birthday today. Chris Spence was a
Happy birthday.
Yeah, Chris
Wait, is he a Frankfurt guy?
He was a Frankfurt guy. He was
a linebacker
in Frankfurt. Yeah, so he Chris unfortunately passed away some years ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good. Yeah, but Chris was a giant over at Frankfurt, and you're looking across at people that you know. I hung out with those guys. I played football with those guys. So for me, it was time to take somebody's head off, and then we could talk about it later. So those moments just kind of built up, and now that you say it, man, it really gives you chills just to even think about that environment and put yourself back there after what you assume is 10 years.
Yep. So North Catholic goes down 14-0. At that trend, usually, even in my era, the game's pretty much over. So what's going on the sidelines? What's going on in the locker room? You guys are down 14.
Well, I just think that we were trying to figure it out. Again, it was that unique mix of knowing that this is your last game and just trying to find a way to win. We came off of we went to the public, went to the Catholic League Championship. So for us, we felt very prepared to play the game, but the crossover of the type of team that we were playing and everything that was on the line, we were trying to figure it out. The offense that they were running was something different than what we typically were running. We're running some kind of wildcat. It was kind of like a wildcat, option kind of offense. And, Dave and Daniel Clark will tell you right now that it was easy to identify, but hard to stop, and then if you remember at this point, special teams was kind of playing a big role in the game too. There was a couple more punt returns and kick returns that went back for touchdowns than I ever imagined, in that kind of game. But it was, I think when we were down 14 is when we kind of looked at each other and was like, look, man, this, I'm not yet. Actually, at halftime is when we had the biggest wake up call,
which starts to come back.
That was what started to come back because in a very slight way, Coach CJ kind of laid into us and in a way that he's never done before. I just remember it being so graceful. He used, Coach CJ never really kind of got Coach C. I'm talking not Coach Charlie, but Coach CJ was very stable in his approach. And I just remember him coming in the locker room and just basically saying like, look, what the F are you scared of? Mm-hmm. This is it. This is it. Take the brakes off, take the governors off, and go play football, go play free. I think he felt the weight of what we were kind of dealing with.
Yeah.
Wanting to make, the alumni proud. And you hear all the stories all week and, you kind of felt the energy leading up to it. But I remember CJ being such a straight, a straight shooter. And he just walked in calm. He didn't yell. He did actually get to that point throughout the conversation. But I remember him specifically talking to us on the offensive side of the ball and it's like, what are we waiting for? It's time to go. You guys are more than prepared for this moment. Stop worrying about what's going on. Stop worrying about it being the last game and just go play. And that's when, when the gear shifted and we started flying and started tearing people's heads off, which was, again, one of the moments that kind of gives me chills.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can remember. I'm sure this is, again, iconic. Yeah, you were the man that set the stage. So what was the final play call that led to your touchdown? Do you remember?
So I think about this all the time, and I want to call Anthony and talk about it.
Well, let me ask you this question. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Very good.
Were you the person that was supposed on this play call? Was the ball supposed to go to you? Did something break down? How did this all play out?
No, it wasn't supposed to go to me. But we had, again, it was such an unconventional game. It was one of those games where, you go into a game like you go play Conwell Egan. Over time, this is working, and eventually this big play will happen. For the North Frankfurt game, it was very unconventional, and it wasn't like that. We were literally scoring on plays and getting yards on plays that we just, I'm sure CJ and Coach Sillick and all those guys were kind of like seeing it. But from our side, we was like, running, we're running inside zone, on the third and, 15 or something like that. It just was so unconventional, but some stuff was working that we never, that typically didn't hit during the season. So kind of leading up to this moment, there's a few plays that kind of drives that led up to this. One of the ones was an inside zone that I took, all the way down to the goal line. And then I actually ended up going out and Tayshawn Tucker came in and I think it was a big catch in there somewhere by Julian Huggins. Tayshawn Tucker goes and punches it in. And at this point I'm hurt. So I think that's a couple drives before. And then, they go back and I think they get a couple points and then we come back out and this is the drive, right? This is the drive that makes it break. And I just felt big enough for the moment. My heart was dropping a little bit because I wanted to make sure that I was focused and talking through it in my head. And I remember getting in a huddle and we had ran a play 3 times. We had ran plays 3 times where it wasn't to me. At this point, we're just trying to throw the ball. So because we were so deep, we're trying to get down to the goal line and at least punch it in. And I had gotten hurt. So I know punching, they were looking for me to get in their pass block and possibly become open. And I remember us getting down, I think Julian Huggins made a big catch and kind of put us right in the vicinity of where we could score. And the play that Julian caught the pass, I ran a little circle route and I noticed that all of the linebackers were bailing. So I said, oh man, this is, and then the next play I did the same thing. They weren't blitzing. So I just kind of was like, let me just float around, just kind of look, help Ray Rusher, Mikhail and those guys out and just kind of fold under. And same thing, nobody's there. So we get to this last play and, coach draws up this deep ball. I don't remember the play, man, forgive me. But at the time I didn't care, right? Because I knew the ball wasn't coming to me. I just knew that I needed to get open. And I said to Anthony Reed in the huddle, and Anthony will tell you to this day, I said, man, they bailing. They're bailing. I'm by myself. Just turn around and throw me the ball. Like, if you don't have nothing deep, just throw it to me. And I remember it kind of opening up like, the seas parted. The line is just literally standing there, just kind of blocking. And I see all the guys running deep and flooding deep. Stephon Singleton's off to the left. Trey Davis is off to the left. I think Huggins is on the right side. Dave Sherman somewhere out there in the mix. And, I bend in. And, the funny part about it is the guy who was supposed to be blocking me ended up going to play at Nebraska, ended up going to the league and playing for the Denver Broncos. I call him Bam. His name is Zaire Anderson. And I kept saying to Bam during the game, like, man, we're going to win. So we go and I do this little hook and I see Anthony's eyes just kind of floating, just trying to find the guys, but it's a mosh back there. And I guess he looked over and he saw me, he dumped it down. So for me at this point, it's an out of body experience. I don't know how I got there, but I turned from the inside where Bam was, bent back out right. And I saw Trey and I saw Stephon Singleton both on that side. I think Trey came down to hit a block and then Stephon met me in the end zone and it was a party from that point on. And I remember running past one of my old coaches on the Frankfurt sideline, Coach Warren. Obviously Chris Smith's my favorite guy, and a bunch of the guys that I played with, Coach Raj, and just kind of just having that moment of like we here, right? Like this is the moment that, this is it. Put a nail in the coffin. I see y'all guys back down the way. And then, obviously it was some tension there because they did get the ball back. But, I think on the offensive side of the ball, that was a staple moment, that kind of set us aside from, in that game. It was cool, man.
So you catch the ball, you run it in for a touchdown. The stands go nuts.
Sure.
Are you actually getting chills? Like, are you in the game so much? You getting chills? Like, what's Eugene Byrd feeling when the stadium? I mean, it's, like you said, it's the last game, man. This is like the Super Bowl for North Catholic.
Yeah.
You cross that touchdown, man, and the stand erupts.
I was actually on the Frankfurt side when I scored. And so it was kind of like and I got some swears at me again, because that I'm their product. I'm a product of Coach Warren. I played for him the year before I came, before I came to North. So that side of the ball, that side was kind of like somber. But my now wife Jasmine she was on the Frankfurt side. Her family, they went to Frankfurt, all of them. So she was on that side, and I can just kind of see and feel some of the people that I've known. And then I go back to the other side and do this a party. At some point, I see shirts getting ripped off. I see, some of the guys I went to school with completely just kind of out of their mind. And that moment for me, again, what makes it what it is, even when you look back at the video now, is just the passion behind, what we were able to do. And I didn't, at the time, I understood that we were up at that point, but I didn't understand, I didn't really, engage the emotions, because they had scored back to back on so many occasions, and it was to the point where they were scoring at the drop of a hat, in the first half, and then obviously a little bit in the second half. And I just didn't want to get too over invested in us just scoring this touchdown when we had went back and forth, in that third and fourth quarter so much.
So I'm gonna have to show you something here. My North Catholic pride. I still have the paper.
Man,
from that day.
That is awesome. Bobby Butler, great. I talk to Bobby all the time. He's a good, or every so often when he's in town. But that's cool, man. That is a great memory. I have a ton. We had a house fire a couple years back in 2015, and I lost some of my stuff. So my helmet, it's obviously a little burnt and charred from the fire, but a lot of my North Catholic stuff, I still have it. I gotta find my jersey. My jersey's somewhere around this.
You gotta find it. So
I have it. It's
behind me, you can't see because of this thing here. I have, and it had to be. Let me get it. I'll show you. Do you remember this in basketball? Did they wear this in your era? It's a warm up.
I believe they did. Doesn't look too familiar. You know what? Those guys won the championship when I was there, so I don't know. I think that the swag was a little different.
So we need to get you back to Philadelphia, okay? Because this is what I'm doing. As you can see, there's signatures on here.
Okay, who you got?
And I got this. My brother, I don't know if I bought it. So when North was closing, they opened the doors, people were buying stuff. I actually bought Darryl Robinson's helmet.
Oh, did you?
And I now donated it to Dagwoods over at Torresdale and Linden Avenue. It sits up in there because I'm getting ready to retire soon. I'm downsizing. But anyway, the shirt, I want to get everybody who participates, even that doesn't participate in this, I want to have them sign it. I want to auction this off at one of the Northlands reunions, put it in a nice frame, and all proceeds to go to, scholarships to help, kids attend Catholic high school.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'm down for that. I'll sign it.
Yeah.
I should have connected with you last week. I just was home.
So I do another stint here on the show, and it's called North Catholic Trivia. You're not being graded on it.
Yeah, you're going to stump me, but it's all good.
So before, venturing off to Atlanta, maybe your mom had said, because that's maybe where your address was in school, you would get the newspaper from North, right? You get the alumni paper. You remember getting that?
Man, where to be honest with you, John, I lived down in the hood, man. I lived on 9th area. We didn't get that on our side of town.
All right.
No,
well,
I didn't.
I'm going to throw it. All right. How about this? I'll give you something a little bit different. Okay, the Falcon was chosen as a symbol of the school for 3 reasons. Can you
Okay.
at least name one?
3 reasons.
The Falcon was chosen as a symbol of the school for 3 reasons. Can you at least name one?
Man, no, I can't think of one. I can't think of one that would it's not I don't know if we learned that in when I was there.
Well, the first one is it's the bird of prey and it never lets go.
Never lets go. It's new
Right?
at the time.
It's completely faithful to its trainer, and it's the fastest of God's creatures, according to North Catholic's Wikipedia.
we rewritten that one.
Yep. So,
Okay.
Eugene, I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule in Atlanta to come talk to a fellow North Catholic graduate.
Sure,
And it's
man.
been an honor and a pleasure to meet such an
Absolutely.
iconic man. Again, we had some guys that played in the NFL, but that doesn't matter, man. You won the final North Frankfurt game, brother. You punched it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I appreciate thanks for having me on, and you know, and finally being able to kind of connect. But man, like I said, North Catholic will always be a part of me. It's a part of my story. It's a part of my journey. I take it, I wear it with pride. I still order everything. I'm just like an Eagles fan. I'm with it forever. But I hope that, and even some of the alumni have reached out in times past. I hope that the guys know that my love and sincerity is also with the school and with those that still kind of rep us to and through. I'll always be a part of North. It'll always be a part of me.
So for all the guys, some of the classmates that you haven't seen in years that are probably going to have an opportunity to watch his video, we've been through some tough times with this virus going around, and what do you have to say to a lot of the alumni, the guys you graduated with, that are going to get an opportunity to watch his video?
Man, just hang in there. I mean, this year alone has put us all through a test, and it revealed a lot about who we are as individuals. And I think if we made it to this point, then we can make it through it. I'm a big faith person. Romans 8:28, where all things will work out for the greater good. So I truly believe that. And so I just hang in there, and then continue just to love and inspire those around you. This community is built on that. Again, 1 Corinthians 13:4-8. Make sure that you guys always show love, man, and show it in the best way possible to all those around you. So those are the 2 staple scriptures that I got, for those guys that's out there. Just kind of make sure that you stay persistent in your approach to continue to do great things. And hopefully we can keep this community of alumni and, sports alumni of North Catholic together, and we can continue to, to share these stories for years to come. Maybe in 10 to 20 years, I'll be in your seat and doing the same thing, just trying to keep our community alive. So hang in there, guys. It'll get better. And
can you do one favor for me?
Sure.
Can you give a shout out with some love to Lenny Kells, please?
Yeah, Lenny, man. I love you, man. I love your enthusiasm. I love your you know what I mean? I love everything that you bring to the table. I know we connected a few years back, and you kind of shared with me how important, obviously this community is, and helped me see further, how it still plays a role in my life. So Lenny, much love, brother. I hope that we can continue to connect, and if you guys ever need anything from me, you know how to get a hold of me.
Eugene, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on. I mean, I didn't get a chance to make that game. I'm gonna blame it on my wife, but I think she's sitting right outside the door listening. I want to get into much trouble. But
I'll say this. Sorry to cut you off, but I met my wife. I've known her for years, but this was the first game that she showed up to. And I'm not going to say that this is the reason why we ended up kind of making it a happily ever after, but it ranks up there. That's that was the first game she ever come to.
Nice. So. And then she was a Frankfurt alumni. So did you get in trouble that night? Did she blow you off? Like
nah. My wife went to Girls High.
Oh, Girls High. I thought you said she was.
No, my mom. So my mom and her parents went to Frankfurt. So you can imagine.
Well, your mom converted, right? She wears all the North gear now.
Yeah, my mom wears North gear. She's Frankfurt. She's Frankfurt on the inside, but she wears North gear because obviously it's our family now.
Amen. Well, Eugene, stay safe out there, and I'm hoping to meet up with you maybe before the summer's out, and we'll get you to sign this thing before we auction off. Not, I'll get your mom to sign it. We can touch base.
I'm sure she's down. She's probably around too. John, I know hope all is well, man. I know you had some stuff going on, so prayers with you and the family as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I start chemo probably in about a week or so. So doctor says it's curable. So I have faith. I have faith in God.
Yes, sir. Hang in there, bro.
All
Hang
right,
in
dude.
there.
You take care, man.
Romans 8:28. All right, take it easy.
Yep.